Beta testers say that designing every aspect of their character is a compelling experience.
I've been designing my orc's liver for 5 hours now. This is awesome.
I like my Dragon Knight's digestive system, but he keeps on getting stomach ulcers. So I'm gonna have to go in there and add some more epithelial cells in order to build up his gastric mucosal level.
Designing the hands is the hardest part. I keep having to look up how all the joints connect.
What?
YouTube, I am back. It's your boy OG Scoot, and I am proud to present my 4th video on YouTube. So today in this video, the first section, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about avatars, and why they're important, and why people should really care about actually customizing them, and a little bit of a definition of like why we can identify to them, and really, like I said, why they are important. So for the second part of the video, I am going to talk to you guys about multitasking and with video games, and really like how that all works and how it plays out, and the importance of actually studying multitasking with video games. So without further ado, here's my 4th video, and watch the whole thing. I promise you it will blow your mind away. Alright, so I know that video was a little, I guess you could say, dramatic on video game players customizing their character or avatar. But people actually do really like customizing their avatar. But first, before we get into really what an avatar is, I want to kind of explain different characters in video games so an avatar would make more sense for you guys. So, first, an avatar is a character in a video game that is controlled by the human or the video game player. So then we'll move on to a bot or an NPC, and an NPC really isn't, all it means is not a playable character. So what they are is they're just computer controlled characters within the video game. So then you come to the primary and secondary characters. So the primary character is, it can be an avatar, but it's most likely going to be the controllable, or it is the avatar, and it's the controllable character that the human is playing. And then the secondary character is basically just a character that's controlled by the computer or a bot, and they can either be good or bad depending on the storyline. And then the last type of video game character would be a territory character, and basically all these guys are background characters that you don't really interact with. So an example of this would be when you're playing NBA 2K and you see the crowd and you see them dancing around and stuff, but you don't really play a whole lot to the story of the game, or you can't interact with them. They're basically just background characters that really don't do a whole lot. So, since you guys know really kind of the outline of video game characters, why don't we move on to what an avatar is and the importance of avatars in video games. So let's go. Alright guys, so since you know the basis of video game characters, now let's go more in depth with the word avatar. So, the word avatar is actually a Sanskrit word and identifies the god Vishnu's manifestations on Earth. And so, once that happened, then 1985, in a video game called Habitat, that was the first instance really where the word avatar was related to a playable video game character. And that was actually coined by Morningstar. So now, what does avatar really mean? Well, Heigl has this diagram, and it really helps. So basically the outline of the diagram is the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. Now basically how this can work is, let's just say the thesis is a game player in the real world. Then we move on to the antithesis, which would be an avatar in the virtual world. Now what we can do is combine both of those, and then we create the synthesis, and that would mean it would be the game controlling avatar. So that, and Heigl is really important with this because it shows the process in which people connect with their avatars. So that is also important to know as well. Alright, but why should you guys even care still? Alright, so let's talk about identification first with avatars. So this means it's a shift in a player's self-perception. And it's important because when you're making your avatar, a lot of people try to create their avatar for what they think they look like or what they identify as, like a male or a female. But some games don't have this option, so they create an avatar that they would really like in World of Warcraft, and still though, players can still find some similarities between that. Alright, so let's move on to our next word, and similarity is when a person observes that there is a physical resemblance between the self and the mediated other. So, like I said with the Warcraft thing, I mean, obviously you don't look like a troll or anything, but you can still try to customize your character's face to maybe look a little bit more like you or whatnot. But it's definitely important when you're playing video games to actually try to make the avatar resemble some part of you. And customizing an avatar has been actually shown to increase gamers' heart rates by 10% compared to an avatar that was just given to them. And I find this to be really truthful, because when I play NBA, there's a feature where they can scan your face and it goes to your character, and I mean that it doesn't really work out that well. But the fact is that I can feel more immersed in this game, and that's really what an avatar wants. Customizing one, I guess, is really what the goal is you want to be more immersed into a video game. You don't want to feel like you're just playing it, but you want to feel like you're inside the video game. And customizing this avatar to do kind of like what you normally do, or look like you, that's really important, and then you feel like you're actually in this video game. So then there's different types of identification with an avatar. So there's wishful identification, and that is a psychological process through which an individual desires or attempts to be like another person or character. So they want to be like this character, and they'll do pretty much anything they can. And then I know I, for example, have played a lot of different games, different genres, but whenever I do play a game, I start to feel kind of almost emotionally invested into the character that I'm playing. So I not that we're best friends or anything, but I feel like I could be his friend if he just popped out of that screen, just because I feel like I know him so well, and maybe he knows me really well because we've gone on so many adventures together. But this is called parasocial interaction, and that is defined as friendship with someone else, and then over time this friendship with the avatar becomes stronger and stronger. So basically you develop this relationship over time, and with that relationship you just feel like you could be best friends with this guy. So like I was talking to you guys about why it's so important, there's also different reasons why you want to identify with this character, and owner identification is one big one, and that's relating to an avatar through the process of creation or customization. So when you're doing this, you feel like you actually made this person, and if it doesn't even resemble you, that's okay, because you still made this person, so the video game player feels more connected with this avatar. And you also feel closer to these video games is if you have yourself as a source. And what that basically means is that you feel like you're more inclined to like this game or character because you've built it. So it'll draw you in more, and you almost feel more immersed in the game because you feel like you've really helped create it in a sense. And I think that's why Minecraft is probably so relevant today with pretty much anyone. Doesn't really matter the age, But it's important because they create the world, and you get to do what you want, basically. You don't really get to customize your character a whole lot, but you can build anything you really want to. So then the last thing is just really identifying with this character, and you guys almost just become one. So really that's why an avatar is so important, and I feel like games that that do incorporate where I can really customize my avatar, I relate closer to, because it makes me want to invest more time in the creating of it and playing it, because I feel like I'm actually in the game. So that is why avatars are so important in video games. So for the section 2, just hang on, I'll be right back. Alright guys, well thanks for sticking around for part 2 of the video. So this part I'm going to talk about multitasking. Now you're probably asking yourself, what does multitasking even have to do with video games? Well, let's first start off by talking about different types of multitasking. So there's the sequential type of multitasking. And basically all that means is completing multiple tasks one after another in a given span of time. So that's sequential, and then the next type is called concurrent. And this is basically engaging in multiple tasks at the same time. And that's exactly what we would know as what multitasking is, and what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I still haven't answered the question, what does video games have to do with multitasking? Well, researchers used recording electrical activity along a person's scalp to measure testing subjects' brain functions, and through this they found the brain waves activity which is associated with how well we pay attention was similar to young adults. So they conducted this study on older people, and I don't want to offend anyone, but probably about 60 years old and up, and to see how well that their brain functioned and the strength of these waves. And with this test, it draws on a mix of cognitive skills just in real life, such as attention focusing, task switching, and working memory. And that means the ability to hold temporary pieces of information. And so what this was called was NeuroRacer. And this was developed, and it was a video game, and basically you drove down a road and you had to see signs, and when you did, you would hit a certain button. So that's not the only type though of a simulating racing game, if you want to call it that, that helps people figure out or has video games help people figure out different types of information that they wouldn't obviously normally know. So the next thing that I find very important with racing simulators and the multitasking feature is how we can use them to figure out texting and driving, and obviously the negative effects with that. So you can even do this by yourself if you really want to. So all you'd have to do is go to GameStop, pick up a driving wheel, some foot pedals, a racing game like Forza or something, and just pop it into your Xbox or PlayStation and get going. But there's also a lot of companies, big companies that you obviously have heard of, that are doing this, trying to show youth that texting and driving doesn't work. So one is by AT&T, and it's called the It Can Wait campaign. Another one is from the Canadian Automobile Association, and they provide a simulator that that basically you have to text and drive and figure out, if you can actually do it or not. And another one is called Gauging Your Distance, and this one is provided by the New York Times. And the last one is called Heads Up, and this is by Toyota and Discovery Education. So this is important because people think that they can multitask and do it better than they really can. But if they experience this texting and driving simulator, which is honestly pretty realistic, they can realize that they actually can't text and drive. But this is also important for the youth, because when a 16-year-old gets their license, and how much everyone texts and emails and does all that each day, this will show them that they can't do it. So I think personally I'd rather crash a car in a video game than actually crash my car in real life. So this shows, you know, basically what it's like, and it is super important. And you know, these are examples of how racing simulators and video games can actually help out multitasking and really show the mass audience, you know, the dangers associated with different things when you are multitasking. So video games are an educational tool, and the simulators are great but are super expensive. But like I said before, head to your local GameStop or Best Buy and pick up a wheel and a pedal and a game, and you pretty much have your own racing simulator that's just as good and will produce really the same measure as like a really expensive simulator would cost. Alright guys, well thanks for watching part 2 of the video. I hope I kept it short enough. You know, like, subscribe, talk about this channel. I'd really appreciate it. You know, I'm trying my best here, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So I'll see you on my next video, and I think that might be my last one. My plan is also to throw up a video of highlights and clips of my NHL team along with Battlefield, and I just think it would be kind of fun because I already have talked about it a bunch. So until next time folks, stay beautiful.
To be